You don't need to make a whole game. So this is the Unreal editor. It's on all the computers here. You could download it and play with it at home. If you do play with it at home, you have to make sure you get the same version we have here, which is 4.8. Okay? If you get the latest version will not save into this version, so you cannot bring it here and work on it.
Available on different OSs?
Yes. And it's actually free, so you can download it and play with it, and it's pretty awesome. And once you understand some of the concepts, it's actually pretty easy. So this is a scene that I built, just kind of playing around with it. And the process is a bit different than you would typically think. I didn't build this entire thing inside of Maya. What I did was I built one wall inside of Maya and brought it into Unreal and then duplicated it. I brought one floor tile into Maya and built it, and then I exported it out and brought it in here and duplicated it to create the entire floor. I made one lamp over here. The controls are very different than Maya, so I always take 15 minutes to figure out how to work it. Here is my point light. Here is my lamp. I can duplicate this and move it over. There we go. Okay, so I can create different lights inside the scene. And then what's really awesome about this is that I can actually play the game. I have to rebuild my lighting real quick. Now it is different. So obviously if you've never used Unreal before, you would have to probably watch a couple tutorials just to see how that process works. It doesn't take long to get you going. I'm going to give you kind of a primer here just so you can see what's involved. But all the lighting and stuff, the way that video games work is that they bake all the lighting into the scene. So all the lights inside your scene are already kind of locked into place. So once it's done rebuilding it, which is what it's doing down here, I can hit the play button and I can do a walkthrough of this scene. Okay? Now in here we need to do a little bit more work on the staging because we just have other stuff going on. In Maya we can just have cameras locked in. So I can have a camera locked here and it doesn't matter what's behind me. I have a camera locked here, it doesn't matter what's behind me. If I'm doing a walkthrough, I want to again help tell a story but kind of contain the person into an area. Alright, there we go. So now I can hit play. And then I click, and now I can walk around my scene at lightning speed. I think it's this graphics processor is going really fast. But it's pretty neat how we can walk around and actually experience the environment instead of just looking at a picture of it. Okay? And this is all, it's all basically set up. It's all, there's nothing crazy fancy with it. It's just all basically set up, and I'm just dropping my pieces of geometry in there and then texturing them and lighting them and all that stuff.
So you're not building anything in there? You're just building one piece at
I build it in Maya, bring it in here, and then duplicate it. That's it. Okay?
Unreal, make it more, I guess, realistic?
Well, what it does is it basically is just like Keyshot, where Keyshot has default lighting and stuff. It has a default lighting setup. It's not as photorealistic because it's a game, but it allows us the interactivity of being able to walk through the entire thing. So in here, if I made a new project, this one is a blank one, so I can fly around. So if I was doing let's say an exterior environment and I wanted someone to be able to zoom way out and look at my environment from above, I could just do a blank one, or I could do a flying one. Or if I wanted them to be able to shoot stuff, I can make it a first person. Your stuff is down here, so this is where it would be saving your project to. So of course I'd want to set this to an area where I can not lose my stuff. So I would put it into here, into 2520, into work, make a new folder in here called demo class.
Is there a class that teaches this program here?
So this is going to be demo class. And I could put it with starter content, without, whatever. Okay? So now that this is created, I don't need to save that because I didn't do anything. It's going to open up a brand new environment with the demo stuff in there. Okay? Basically, it just gives you a starting point. It gives you lights in the scene. It gives you a camera. It gives you an atmosphere. And because I chose the first-person shooter one, I'm going to get a little first-person shooter guy that's going to walk around too. And if I hit the mouse button, then it'll actually shoot stuff at other objects in my scene, which could be neat if you wanted to add that into your scene to actually have a little shooting Because if you're trying to show off your demo reel and you're trying to get into video games, what better way to create stuff that's actually like interactive, not just like look at my pictures of my game, but actually play this environment that I built. It does take a little bit of time to load up, which is fine. They do come with the Unreal game you can play too, not on here, but if you download it at home. And the game has a bunch of features where you can actually go in there and edit the game and then see what the results are. So in here, I'm going to hit play. And there we go. His gun is not showing up for some reason. But you can see I can shoot these things. Okay, and I can walk around. Now this one, I'm actually locked to the ground. I can jump, but I can't actually move out of the way. I can't like fly away like I could in the other one. Okay, so this is how this works. So let's say that I want to take this as my shell, as my starting point, and I want to start to populate my stuff into this scene. Well, the first thing I do is I go through and I delete all the stuff I don't need. I'm going to zoom out a touch.
What is the purpose of the software for this?
For this, it allows you to build environments that you could interact with.
It's going to look really nice.
Right.
It will look good.
So I'm going to take these things. I can just delete all the stuff that I don't want. And you can see as I'm deleting these cubes that are in here that the shadows for them are still there. Well, at least the big one. And the reason that those are still there is because they are baked into that surface. Once I hit this build again, it would erase all those shadows and rebuild all the lighting in there. So I can delete all the stuff that I don't need inside the scene. And then I can go through and start to add my own stuff to it. So inside of Maya, this is something else. Let me just make a new item. I'm going to create a polygon cube. And I'm going to make it, this is centimeters. So I'm making it 100 centimeters, which is a meter. There we go. And I'm going to go to File, and I'm going to go to the Game Exporter. So this is how you could take your stuff from Maya into a program like Unreal. And this took me some playing around with. Okay, it wasn't like it just automatically popped in. I had to play around with it. So I'm going to go to Export Selection, because I just want to export that out. I'm going to say Triangulate, and I don't need any cameras or animation. Up axis is Y. And I'm going to choose where this goes. So for now, I'm just going to put it inside of my scenes folder for my other class. And I'm going to give this a file name, flat cube, and say export. Okay, so it exports it out, and there it is. Oops, I forgot to export it the other way. I have to go to the options here. There we go. And I have to choose. Oh, it already is set. Okay. I had to make sure it was set to FBX 2014-2015. The other one, the 2016 version, does not work, at least with mine at home. So inside here, I can just go to import. And when I import, I go and I find that file that I just exported. And if you think about it, it's basically just like we've done with Keyshot. We created geometry, we exported it out, now we're bringing it into the engine. Here's my flat cube FBX, that's what I just exported. It's going to say, here's some settings. I'm going to say, yep, import it all. And then I get my flat cube down here in the bottom. Now it's just an asset. So now wherever I want that cube, I can just drag it into my scene. There we go. All right, so now there's my cube. And then I could hold down Alt and just drag it and create another cube. Still thinking. There we go. Okay, and I can hold down, so let me scoot a little bit further, right there. Grab both of these, hold Alt, and drag another copy. Okay, and I could keep adding more and more copies as I went to create whatever it is I'm trying to do. Okay, if I'm doing any texturing, there's no point in doing any Milas or Mias inside of Maya because those aren't going to translate. So I can use these basic shaders like a Lambert or a Blinn. And if I go and I add a file to this, 2D textures, file, And I think I just have one from my other class in here. I have two, wood. There we go. All right, so I have this wood texture on here. I would lay out the UVs.
Where do you get your textures from?
Textures.com.
Textures.com.
Yep, that's the best resource for textures, and they're all royalty free, so you can use them for anything you need to.
Oh, you just have to pay for them, don't they? I take it.
Well, you don't have to pay anything. You get 15 free downloads a day.
Oh, 15 free that day.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
That's pretty good.
And even if you had to pay for it, it's only $100 for the year. So the textures that you get, a lot bigger textures too, and you get like 100 megabytes a day, which is a lot more. All right, so now I deleted the cube I just imported. I'm going to import the newest one that I just made. And when I import this one, yes, I know. There we go. I drop it into the scene. And it's thinking for a second. It should come up with this wood texture on it because it will take the texture from the other scene and bring it into here. I may have to say build in order for it to build and connect the texture to it. Okay, so that blend should bring that texture in there. And if it doesn't, I could always map it inside here.
Do these machines have Unity?
They do not. I'm going to drop the blend onto this just to make sure it's on there. And then let's say that the wood texture didn't come in and I need to create a new wood texture. What I can do is I double click it once it's done thinking. There we go. And it's going to open up what's called a blueprint. And a blueprint is like the hypershade, okay? So it allows us to connect things inside here. So I want to just double check and see. I'm going to turn off live preview just so it doesn't consistently update. There we go. So it did bring in the texture and it is connected to the base color. It's right here. Now, one of the issues it's probably having is Unreal likes to have power of 2 images. Okay, so what's a power of 2 image? Let me go to Photoshop. I wonder if Maya is still rendering. It is rendering. That's why it's going so slow. Just set that there. I'm going to set my affinity to 1 processor. That's all I'm giving you, Maya. All right, so a power of 2 image. If you take the number 2 and you multiply it times 2, you get 4. You take that times 2, you get 8. You take that times 2, you get 16, then 32, then 64, then 128, then 256, then 512, then 1024, then 2048, and then 4096. Those are power of 2 images. So a video game engine like Unreal needs to have that consistency of file squareness in order for it to work efficiently. So I'm going to go and open up that wood texture. Work, Monday, Wednesday, source images, wood fine. There it is. And you'll see this is definitely not a square image. And Unreal says, no, you cannot bring in this rectangular image, even though it's showing us that it's kind of working. So I'm going to crop it so it's square. Image, and then crop. And then I'm going to do an offset, okay? Because if this is a texture that I'm going to repeat over and over and over again, I want to make sure that my repeating is working. So I go to Filter, Other, Offset, and I offset this like that much and like that much, okay? Because I want to see this. Do you see this line coming down the middle here? Okay, I want to get rid of that. And this is a good technique even if you're not going into Unreal, you're just staying inside Maya. So I'm going to use my clone stamper and I'm going to get rid of that seam. And what this is going to do is it's going to make this texture a seamless texture so that if I were to loop it over and over and over again, I wouldn't see any of that. Now it's hard to see this one, but there is a line going right here that I don't like. And I could take this flow down a smidge and just fill in some of that other stuff there. That should be good. Okay. So now if I go back to my offset, which I don't need to do, but if I were to just offset it, you'll see that there's no repetition. There's no apparent line in any of this. So if I duplicated my texture 5,000 times, you're not going to see a hard line coming down the middle. What you probably see is just a pattern of these same textures, but you're not going to see a hard line going down the middle. So now I can save this as my video game texture, video game wood. I'll save it as a JPEG because it likes JPEGs. I'll save it as the highest quality. And now when I go back to Unreal, I can just click on this wood texture and load in a new one. So I'm just going to double click. And
Save it as TIFFs or anything?
what was that?
You don't save it as TIFFs or anything?
No, you don't have to save it as a TIFF.
So you don't, or you
Don't.
like don't have to, or do not do it.
You do not have to do it. It will do its own thing in there. It'll accept TIFFs. But for a video game, they want to be quicker. So the quicker we can get the smaller we can get the file size, the quicker it's going to be. So as a JPEG, it should work fine. So now I deleted that. There it is. Like, where did my stuff go? I deleted the wood from that area because I want to just show you how to bring a new one in. Yes. There you go. Now it did show it here. So I'm just going to import a new texture. And if you look at the list here, here's all the different things that it will accept. Okay, here's my texture formats. I guess TIFF isn't in here. I thought it was. But ping is in here, PSD is in here, targ is in here, EXR is in here for your other stuff. I'm just going to bring in that JPEG wood right there. There's the video game wood. So if I click on this, I double click my Blinn. That brings this up. I hold T and hit enter, it'll bring it right there. Or you can just drag it. Like you can drag these into this window and there it is. All right. So now I can take this and it's just a matter of clicking these connectors to the other connectors. Come on.
So I never learned how to use those.
There we go. So this is the output, okay? So on this, there's a red, green, blue, and white, or gray. That's the red channel of this, the green channel, the blue channel, and then this is the alpha channel, okay? So if I had an alpha channel inside there that was doing something, I may want to play with that. In this case, we basically want to say, I want to take everything that this image is and just put it into the color. And that's what that top one is. So I take everything that this image is and just drag it to the color. So now this is the color of that, okay? So now let's say that I needed a bump map for this or something. This one does not accept regular control, right click. There we go. This one doesn't accept regular bump map. It accepts what's called normal maps. And we'll get into normal maps next week. We'll talk more about creating all of these things in ZBrush, creating them in Mari, creating them in other programs. But essentially, it's this kind of image. So if I go here and I look up normal map, it's more of a 3D kind of bump map. So if I had this would actually bump and look a little bit more realistic than if it was just a flat image, okay? And on textures.com, you can actually get textures that have normal maps alongside them. Or not. Nope. Maybe I'm thinking of a different site. Regardless, you can still find them. I will use Google, and I will use regular images, and I will find a wood. Okay. Now, anytime you're going to use something like this, especially for something that might be like a production piece, something that's going to be commercially used, you can't just grab any one of these because these don't belong to you. These are someone else's. We have to go under the search tools and go to search usage rights and say we want to use this for reuse with modification. And you'll see our stuff gets limited a lot more because people don't want you using their stuff. Now, if this is for non-commercial, then we could click on that and see if we pull up something else. And we're not really pulling up anything else here. Some websites will actually have best render textures right here. Okay, and this is another one that I believe is free. Yeah, I don't see anything else in there. Okay, so this is another one that I could get. there's also a tool, and it's called, can't think of the name of it. UV mapper, no, UV, normal. Crazy Bump. So there's a tool called Crazy Bump, and what it allows you to do is you download Crazy Bump, and it'll actually create normal maps for you based on your images. Where are my downloads? Your downloads. There it is. Open. All right, so essentially this would be a normal map, and we could generate those inside of ZBrush or inside of Mari to actually get the stuff out of there. With just this flat one, we need to use a external tool like Crazy Bump to do this kind of thing, and if that opened up, it would have been perfect. There's also one like Normal Map Online where you could generate normal maps. Online. There it is. Okay, so if I drug my picture inside here, there. Right there, right there. There's my video game wood. I did. It didn't do anything when I double clicked it.
Well, I mean, like you were in the Internet Explorer.
Right, but I still hit open. It didn't open.
Oh, what is save? Maybe it'll be like save it now.
Go to. Nope. Doing nothing. All right. I never used this one, but it looks like this is something very similar to the other ones. It's going to give you some sort of bump that you could then use inside of Unreal. Right there. Okay, so I would just load that other texture here. I could connect it to whatever this is. I could also connect in a bunch of other stuff, which, you know, going through some of the constants, where are they at? Right over here. Going through some of the tutorials for this, you'll see more what each one of these things do. These texture things can get very, very involved. So there's my specular. I've gotten rid of the specular, and now I can just type in 0.25 and I'll have a little bit of specular. Okay, so think about like your Mila or your Mia or your Blinn or your Fong or any of the materials you used in Maya. Instead of having this list of all this stuff that you could adjust, you have one right here. You have this Blinn, and it's basically completely blank. It's just like a flat color. And if you want a color in there, you have to connect the color. If you want specular, you have to connect the specular. Okay? If you wanted to adjust roughness, I could add in, come on, another constant, a regular one, and then connect this one to that. And at 0 roughness, you can see how sharp this is. At 1 roughness, you can see how spread out that specular is. Okay? So every time you want to put something in there besides the default value, you have to connect a constant to it. Now this gives you a lot of options because you could actually take this one texture, this one object, and you could set it up perfectly on, let's say, this column. Then you could duplicate that column, change some parameters on the material for just that column, and it'll look completely different. So it won't look like you have the same column over and over and over again. It has different properties for each column. All right? So that's more stuff that you can do. And what I do is hit apply, I hit save. I close this, I'm done. And now this has that wood texture on it, and you can see that, again, I haven't really touched anything besides dropping that in from Maya, and then I have this pretty neat looking piece of wood inside my scene. And then I could take this and then hold Alt and then duplicate it over, and then hold Alt again and duplicate it over. And these settings are inside our, oops, hold Alt, drag it, are meters, okay? And the other one is centimeters, so that's why I've scaled up all my stuff. And it's not lining up perfectly there, I'd have to tweak that. There is a snapping I could disable or lower. No, I guess it was lined up. Okay. I set that back to 10. And then I can just grab these and then drag that over. All right, now it looks pretty horrible now because it doesn't have the lighting rebuilt. So once I click rebuild, it'll go through, fix the lighting, fix the shadows, which is what we're seeing there, and it'll look nice and smooth. So this is just another alternative for you to be able to take your environment, and instead of making it something as a, I'm going to show you this specific thing, you can make it so they can actually walk around your environment and see other stuff that's inside there. That's rebuilding the lighting down here. There's also other stuff you can trigger. So if you, let's say that you really like this song, when they get to a certain part in your level, you can actually have a song play, or you can have a light click on, or you can have just random things happen. And it's not any programming thing. It's literally like really easy stuff that you could have set up inside here. If you're doing exterior environments, there's actually a whole area right here where you can build landscapes, kind of like default landscapes, and then you could just populate it with the trees and then drag in some other stuff. Now, I don't want it to be a, I'm going to drag and drop a bunch of stuff and then call that my project. This is a modeling class, so I want you to model stuff. Okay? Do you have a question?
It was kind of just about the nature of this program. What would you be able to do if you didn't have any knowledge of any type of coding? Like, how far would you?
There's no coding that I've done.
Well, but
If we wanted to do something, you could build very, very simple environments, and with their default setups, you could have a character interact with the environments as far as like walking around and looking at the items. If you wanted them to do anything outside of that, like you wanted to build your own gun, or you wanted to have your own projectile shoot out, or you wanted a spaceship to fly in and crash into something, that would be where more programming stuff would come in. But even like the programming stuff, most of the programming done for this, blueprints, is done all inside of these things.
that's okay. It's pretty useful if you like want to make a demo for a game.
Right. Well, the biggest thing now is that you want to show off your demo reel and you want to be different. What better way than to make it interactive? To take your pieces you've built, like your product, and instead of just like, here's the still, look at the still, you've made it so they can actually walk through a gallery, and then they get to your products and they could click on them and then pull up an actual picture or a 360 or a whatever. Okay? All of these too, like I didn't click on the one option, but there's an option you can make a game for your phone. So imagine that now your phone, your demo reel is an app that they could go and put on their phone and show off, and you could show them, here's my demo reel right here, and they could interact with it and play. Your goal is to get something that makes makes yourself stand out. Control, there we go. These are the blueprints. So this is all the stuff that's in here. This one that's right here is the heads-up display for the character walking around. So if I hit play, may have to hide this. Oh, there it is. Okay. So if I hit play, you see how he doesn't have a gun here, but he does have like the crosshair in the middle. I have sound too. Okay, so that's again something else that's just triggered. But I have this crosshair, and if I don't want, number one, the hands, 'cause that's kind of weird to have in your demo reel without anything there. And I also have that crosshair. So this is the crosshair in the center of the screen. So I can just delete that and delete all this stuff. And then save it, close it, there we go. And now when I hit play, I'm not going to have that crosshair. I'll still have the hands and they'll still shoot, but I don't have the crosshair. So then I could go into my stuff over here. Let me zoom out a touch. If I find the camera, I'll just find it here. First person, right there. The controls are not like Maya's, so it does take some getting used to. I'm going to just go edit. Nope, blueprints. First person character, edit the first person characters. Now this brings up the first person character, and I could delete certain things inside here. Here's the projectile. So I could delete all this stuff, and now he won't have a projectile to be shooting out of his gun. And I'm not sure why it's not showing up on this one. But on my computer, his gun did show up, and when I was looking at him here, his hands showed up too. So let me see if I can find it inside there. Edit first person character. No, that's him. Viewport. There he is. Okay, so I went to the viewport. That's why I was in the event graph. So what I can do here is I can just click on the hands and just delete them. And so now when I save this and I close it and I go back to play this, what I'm going to get is a very simplified version of someone who can walk around and interact with things. Now, if I was going to have him interact and actually like click on things, maybe I would want to have the target there, or maybe I would want to do something else. Okay. Now, I would say for your first one, for this very simple one, we want to keep this as simple as possible. So just get rid of all the crap, and then you can just add stuff to it. These didn't take very long, and I think they look pretty awesome in the scene. Close that. And I haven't really done anything fancy to it, but they're all going to be the same way. If I build a cube inside here, and I start to shape this, nope. I keep hitting duplicate and not extrude. Extrude again, scale it down, push it in. There we go. So now I'm going to take this shape, whatever this is, a weird funky lamp. I think I have two there. Nope. Okay. I'm going to smooth it out so that it comes into Unreal nice. I'm going to delete history. I'm going to assign a blend to it. I'm going to give the blend a color. Alright, and I will go back to my game exporter. Everything should still be set up. I just have to give this a name. Lamp. Export. Back to Unreal. And then back to import and just re-import my object. Re-import that little lamp thing. And then I can just...
Can you make things bigger and smaller?
Yeah, moving, scaling, rotating, it's all the same. So here's my lamp. There he is. I hit R. The nice thing is all the move, rotate, and scale are the same. I could scale it up or scale it down. I could move this down so that it's actually hitting the ground. You'll see that it already has a shadow. I can duplicate it over here.
Make like a physics thing so you can push over?
You can. Over here on the right, my screen's squished because there's just no room. And it came in colored too, notice that as well. I can tell it to simulate physics, simulate hitting. I believe that's all I had to do on that. Let me make sure this one is also simulating that and that. Okay, so now we'll hit play. And if I go here, okay, just with a couple button clicks, we're able to now interact with it. If I go to, there's so much cool stuff inside here, it's like ridiculous. Here's a light, so I can add a point light into my scene. And you can see I just added in there, and now I have a point light into my scene. Now anything dynamic, it has dynamic shadows too. So the shadows are not going to be baked in, so just be aware of that. What else do we have here? There's some basic shapes that you could add inside here. These are triggers. So let's say that I wanted a light to go on when someone got closer. I could use one of these triggers and say, when the character enters this sphere, click the light on. When they exit the sphere, the light goes off. So those are different ways that we can trigger different events to happen inside there. Imagine you have a gallery, completely dark, maybe some mood lighting a little bit. They get to a piece, they walk in front of it, a light clicks on, and there's your piece right in front of it. They walk away, the light goes off, right? You're showing your versatility. It's not just about creating a bunch of pieces and hopefully getting a job doing it. It's about showing your ability to do this kind of stuff. Bunch of random stuff in there. I'm not even going to play with all that. They also have these painting things, so you could actually like grab stuff. I've never done this before, but we'll see. Paint color, purple. I probably have to click something like, nope. Copy, channels, vertex. No, probably no vertices, so I can't paint it. Let me click on this and then go back to paint. Oh, there I am. So I'm painting vertices in this case and not painting the actual texture. So there's landscapes, so I can manage a landscape, creating a new one from a material, paint a landscape, sculpt a landscape. Here's a bunch of different items that we can add to the scene. And then here's how we can edit stuff. So if I needed to take this shape here and edit it, somehow I could edit this shape. I forget how the buttons to click for it, but it's one of those things I just have to make sure I click the right thing and then it works. So really quickly you could create your environment, not quickly, but you could create all these assets inside Maya, texture them inside Maya, bring them into here, and then just place them where you want them to be. And it's very, once you have the asset created, it's very easy to drop it in there, okay? Now inside of Maya, let's pretend that we didn't go that route, okay? Even if we did go that route, this is always like the first good step. When you're making an environment, you can't just go in there and just start building the environment, okay? You're gonna just shoot yourself in the foot doing that. You have to think of it in the, how is this environment gonna look overall? So if I look at this and I say, okay, I'm doing Iron Man, I'm doing Captain America, I'm doing whoever, it should start with some sort of plan and not just willy-nilly, let's just start adding stuff into the scene. So for your 3D environment, for your Maya environment, don't try to focus on the entire room. Your turn-in, if you do it just in Maya, is going to be just like a 5 shots. So we want to just focus in on one side of the room. We don't need to focus on the entire room as far as populating every square inch of this thing. All we need to do is focus in on that area. So you see how I have just this? So if I populate just that, it'll seem like the rest of the room is full, even though it's not. So what we do is we lay these things out. I have walls here, I have my floor, and I start populating the environment with different things in here. So I say, let's say I'm doing a desk. So I put a desk right there. And then let's say that I'm doing windows, okay? I haven't actually created anything as far as what the scene's going to look like. I'm going to turn on wireframe here. All I'm doing is kind of populating this with what I think I want the environment to look like. Okay? Think of it as like a thumbnail, a digital thumbnail for what we're doing. And even if you're going into Unreal with this, this is a good kind of planning stage to do it here to get an idea of what this looks like so far. So I have my desk, I have 4 windows. Maybe I don't like the size of those windows and I want to change them. It's a lot easier now to change them to just go, I want one big one. There we go. It's a lot easier to do that here than to try to do that at some other point after we've already cut a hole in there, after we've already textured, after we've already started playing around with that. Okay, so there's my windows. I like the bigger windows. Maybe I want a filing cabinet, so I'm going to create a filing cabinet over here. And I'm not being careful with any of this. This goes way below the surface here and sticks out the back. I don't care. It's just inside this viewport what I want this to look like. There's another filing cabinet. Back here he has a little desk right in front of his window. Just kind of break up that window a little bit. That's too big. That's like a huge thing right there is good. Okay, maybe he has a chair right in front of this. All right, so these are all the little things that just laying out what this is going to look like is going to help you get to that stage of where do I need to add my detail. If I go in and I don't do this step, what happens is we start off saying I need I'm going to give a perfect example. I need a typewriter. I had a student spend 2 weeks modeling a typewriter only for it to be on this desk right here. And you couldn't even see all the detail they put into that typewriter because it was so far away. Now, had he gone to this stage and said, that typewriter is really far away, I'm not going to see the detail, I can spend a day on it and be done. Okay? So here we're just blocking it in. We're just figuring out what we need. Maybe I need something right here because this area seems kind of bland. And I haven't started with anything except for cubes. This is just cubes. Okay? I could also work on composition. How do I want to compose this image? How do I want to bring the viewer's eye into this image? Well, maybe in this case, this is a big office. And there's like a big pole right here. Or a big pillar right there. And a big pillar right there. Okay, it doesn't have to make sense architecturally, but now with these two pillars here, this may help draw my viewer's eye into this frame a little bit better. I think this could probably scoot over a bit. I have to adjust this stuff here, and this is the point of it. This is all very, very quick stuff that we're able to go through and tweak without needing to play around with it too much. I think I'm going to need to take this out a bit more.
One thing I did like about that video you showed, the guy was pretty rough with his initial model. He didn't really focus too much on all the details.
Right, and that's what you have to be. You have to be very rough to make sure you're doing this in the right stages. There you go. So something like that, you can see we're changing the dynamic of our frame. We're changing what our viewer's seeing. So we know what stuff we need to focus on. It's not about just building a bunch of junk, throwing it in a room, and calling it your environment. It's about telling that story. It's about putting stuff in here that makes it feel like it's all part of the same environment and it's all meant to be there. Now we could also say, I don't like this pillar here. What if I did a glass pane? Real thin glass pane right here. And that's how you get into the office. There's another glass pane right there and another dividing wall right here. And that'll be rotated to 90. And this will go about here. And just doing this, you should be able to come up with a bunch of different concepts for how you want this laid out. Now imagine these are glass, so just so I can see the glass effect, I'll throw a blend on it and just pull the transparency up. Just to get the effect across. I wouldn't actually, in Maya, render this out as a blend. I would put good materials on it. Okay? So now I'm able to, again, tell the story, I'm able to frame it, and I'm able to get into there and kind of show off that idea. Okay? So what I want you to do for next week is have more of a solid plan of what you want to do. I want you to go through this kind of stuff with yours and figure out what it is you want to do, what story you want to tell. I want you to also decide whether you're going to go into Unreal with this or if you're going to stay in Maya with this. Okay? Now, I don't want it to be a jumping back and forth, like maybe I'll do Unreal, maybe I'll do Maya. You need to decide. And so if you don't think you're going to have time to learn Unreal and learn Maya, the more stuff in Maya, then focus just on Maya, okay? There's nothing wrong with just sticking to Maya now and playing with Unreal later. And if you're going to be, regardless of which one you're going to be doing, create at least one of these. Sometimes you'll create 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 of these different views here that allow you just to see what your stuff is going to be doing. Your end product in this is 5 images. 5 images that help you tell me what the story is you're trying to get across. Okay? So we're not going to do this frame as one image, and then this one, and then this one, and then that one. Those are 5 boring images I don't care about. Okay? I want to see some excitement in there. So you're going to create 5 cameras. And those 5 cameras are going to be locked, pretty much, to where you're going to tell that story. So I'm going to hit New. I'm going to say this is going to be camera 1. I'm going to adjust my focal length because I want a little bit more room in there, let's say. And my first story is going to be something over here. Okay? I want you to feel the power of whoever's sitting at that desk. I'm right in front of them. You can see how big this desk looks. You can see how big and empowering this window is with someone sitting right in front of it. That's the image I want to get. So this is camera number 1. I'm hitting S to set a key on it. I'm locking this camera right where it's at. Then I'm going to go and create camera number 2. And notice how I'm naming these. Camera 2. And then I would go in here and I would get maybe something else that's maybe important to the scene. Maybe over here I have, these are bookcases, these are whatever. Maybe on here I have a bunch of awards or something that they've done. Or I have something that shows me why I should be afraid of the person sitting behind the desk. Okay, so I set my focal length to a lower one. 20 is just a good number to start with. If you go to like 5, you can see how really distorted this gets, and that's just like way too much stuff. So 20 is, like I said, a good number to go with. So something like this, set a key. Now again, looking at how all of these camera angles are, I'm shooting up with these because I want the viewer to feel diminished. I want the viewer to feel small. If I shoot from above, let's say I go to grab another camera. And let's say I shot from here. Let me even check this to 20. Okay. How does the viewer, what's the viewer interpreted as in this shot? Security camera, right? Like you're watching them. You're not part of that scene. You're watching them. You're an observer. If we jump back to this one, to camera number 1, we don't feel like an observer. We feel like we're in that shot. We feel like we are part of that scene. The same thing with number 2. We feel like we're part of it because we're down here looking up at all this stuff. We feel like we're somewhere in the room, not sitting in a closet or something watching these things on a security camera. Now we could use that same technology or that same technique if we did want to. Maybe this person is very secretive and we have spy cameras or something. Maybe instead of being out here, oops, maybe we're, and this is gonna be hard to do from this angle, maybe we're over here as like an item on the bookcase, right? Maybe they're spying on him and there's like a little nanny cam or whatever it is on the bookcase showing what they're doing. And in order for me to show that I'm on the bookcase showing what they're doing, I would have to have like little props in front of me that make it look like that. Okay, I couldn't just do it like this because it doesn't look like I'm on the bookcase. It doesn't look like I'm a hidden camera. Okay, so I want to add stuff in there that makes it look like it's a hidden camera. So you're gonna find 5 shots inside here. Okay, now you could tell it from different ways too. If you're like, okay, we're telling, in this case, we're telling the story of super powerful. Maybe we do want to have a couple that are just telling the other side of the story. Think of like Two-Face, right? Where we have 2 different sides of him, which one is kind of like reasonable and the other one is just totally insane. We could do something like that too. If we shot from this way, look at all that stuff that we have to model. Okay, so we don't want to shoot from this way. We want to avoid that at all costs. So this, or even like that, we can do something like here. So I could shoot something from over here. All right. Now, once you get more props in the scene, it'll make it make it look like it has a bit more sense to it. P drive. If I go to here, that's that. Images. Okay, look at these here. These are just going to play back in one big loop. Or not, just play back one. Or not at all.
What version of Unreal do you use again?
I think it's 0.8, 10.4.8. All right, so looking at these, it's not opening for whatever reason. You can see these different camera angles that I've got inside here that are all kind of helping tell the story of this specific scene. And with this, there's only these 5 camera angles. It's this one, this one, this one, this one, and that one. These two are pretty similar. These two are somewhat similar, but this gives us more of like a backed off view of this. In this specific scene, I believe I mentioned this before, this is from a book called Robopocalypse. It's about how the robots took over. And so the way that they know how they took over is because they actually have the robots recorded all the information. It's like all the videos that are recorded. So basically anything from this should be something that could have been recorded by another machine. So it makes sense that some of these, like this one, maybe there's a computer behind it. Same thing kind of here. Maybe there's a webcam right here. Maybe there's another camera back here. Okay? So that's what you want to think about as you're looking at all of these, is how could I best tell that story? And for some of these, you really do. You're going to have multiple props in the scene to help tell that. But by getting this lined up, you'll have a better idea of what props you're going to need. Okay? So by next week, you're going to have your story stuff set up, your reference stuff like that. You're going to have your idea of whether you're doing it in Unreal or in Maya. You'll have your thumbnail, whatever you want to call this, set up inside Maya 2, and then your 5 cameras of where you're going to be shooting this. If you're going into Unreal, you're not going to be doing cameras because you're just doing the walkthrough and you'll be turning that in. But inside Maya or Unreal, regardless, you still need to have those cameras set up so you know where to focus your attention on. Okay? Any questions? Yes, ma'am.
Can I use Unity?
You can use Unity too, yeah. Yep.
What else will you be talking about today?
That's